When was the last time you did something that would take you closer to a life that you'd love? Get answers to this and many other life-changing questions on Grow Your Soul Radio. Ignite your inner magic and learn the art of life mastery with Jane Matanga. Jane will unlock and help you reclaim the magic in your life. Take an inspiring journey with Jane as you receive guidance toward the path of your greatest dreams and desires as she helps you reach success as you make powerful changes that will get you back on track and keep you there. Discover insightful tools, world wisdoms, and exercises in this hit call-in show. Transform and awaken your inner light right now on Grow Your Soul Radio.
Wow. Hey, everybody. Hi, Jane.
Hey. Hi, everybody.
We're getting ready to kick off probably one of the most important shows we can do this time of year for sure. For many of you, Jane is somebody that has not only dedicated her life, but 3 decades in executive management, training experiences, like me, participated in the corporate environment, the business world, whether it's Merrill Lynch or Dean Witter, it doesn't matter. We both know what it means to be in the world of business and still be conscious. And so today, she looks at how she can help her clients redefine their lives, take a look at what's working, take a look at what's not working, and then make some changes. But when we think about making changes, what Jane's discovered and I've discovered is there's a whole world over here that we call holistic modalities that brings in the common sense of our lives and yet the transformative energy that goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So you sit here and you think about this as she teaches life mastery and the art of living well, and you bring it all together, and what you have is a toolkit of possibilities for just about everything that shows up. But today, the thing that we know is showing up, and it's going to show up pretty soon here as we launch into the fall and then into the holiday season, is how we get ourselves so out of balance. Just get out of balance that we don't even recognize a balance is like a thing we could have. And once we get out of balance, we think it's the new normal. It's not. Right, Jade?
So true. So true. I think it shows up in our lives when we forget who we are and we forget that we are gift bearers and that we are light and we have these gifts that we can give to the world, and we forget our purpose because we get so tied up into our habits. It's almost like we're sleepwalking, through our life. And we forget, and we kind of do this thing habitually. And then when we start feeling that nudge, that feeling that, we all want to have our lives have meaning, and we all have gifts to share, but we really do need to remind ourselves in this busy world, especially when we have a tendency to go back into this habitual place where we get comfortable. We get so comfortable, and then we just ease into it until all of a sudden, we have these routines and habits, and then we forget about our dreams, and we, start to feel anxious, and we start to feel restless, and we wonder why. And that's really the reason, because we're not paying attention to all that light that we have within us and all that gift and our purpose.
Yeah.
And that's where it shows up, the unbalance and the absence of our dreams and in our daily living habits when we are, it's very subtle. I think we get so busy that we don't really pay attention to it. And it's so easy to go there, as you mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah. One of the things I know you're talking about today is this idea that we have all been given this incredible imagination, this ability to dream, to seek out a vision of our future that may or may not look anything like the world we live in today. And we know that when we get a sense of those dreams, how it makes us feel. It gives us a sense of hope. It gives us a sense of new beginnings, of purpose, of moving forward. And, I want to talk about that. My dreams has not always been like a gigantic magnitude, really has not. And so there's no judgment on the size of one's dream. But one of the things that you talk about is what happens when we get a dream and life shows up. Ouch.
Yeah, and it's hard to get back to where we were when things are a little bit dark or challenging, or our life isn't going the way we've dreamed for it to be, and we need to pay attention to it. It's sort of like this subtle visitor that comes to us, and we just need to be mindful and to kind of prod ourselves about how we think and how we approach life, and also the emotion, the feelings that enter into all the decisions that we make as we're making them. Because as everybody know who listens to this show and the shows on Transformation Talk Radio, are you kind of get what you believe you are, and the way you speak, the way you think, and even the way you feel, it all attracts all of that back to you. It's like you are a mirror, and life becomes that mirror when you start paying too much attention to all the negativeness and the negative energy, and you start to disbelieve that your life is going to be the way you want it to.
Mm. And I think there's this quote by James Allen that you refer to as well. When we're talking about, what happens when we step into a dream, when we look at, what does it mean to have these huge imbalances? What do we keep sight of? What is the magical realm of the dream that if we could just hold on to it, everything will be remembered, right?
Yeah, I think we have to hang on to that sense that we know deep in our soul that sometimes seems intangible when these dark moments come to us, but that sometimes we ignore. But it's the sense that there's a higher agenda for our life and the reason that we are here. And when that gets out of balance, we just need to pay attention to it so that we can regain that magic in our life. And we need to do the work. We need to remember to interact with people who bring us light, who are our friends, who believe in us. We need to have positive talk. We need to watch things that are positive and that are motivating. And we need to be with people who are motivating, and we need to think thoughts that are motivating. And just to be mindful of that when our dissatisfaction occurs, that we need to shift into that balance where we belong and where our soul knows we're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, for those of you out there, we're going to go to a short break, but I didn't read the quote, and I will. Thank you for reminding me. The quote by James Allen is, "The greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn. The bird sleeps in the egg. And in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of reality." Realities, he says. I love that he gives it a realities. Well, part of this is really the remembrance of that, Jane, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And then even the reminder of that, we still may need to learn how to achieve and learn some things to get us back to that place of balance. When we come back, we're going to talk about something that all of us relate to, and that is how the imbalance shows up in our everyday life. It's not quite like you might think. You might be thinking something traumatic happens, but it's not always quite that knowing. Sometimes it can come in a whisper, but in any event, it comes in a way that keeps us away from the fulfillment of that dream, that oak and the acorn, that bird and the egg. And, as James Allen has said, the vision of the soul. When we come back, Jane's going to take us on a journey of what that means, how the imbalance shows up in our lives. And then later on in the show, what are we going to do about it? Jane Matanga joining me here today. This is a fabulous show. Jane, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and especially the work you do around this?
You can reach me at enlightened-path.com. That's my website. You can write to me at info@enlightened-path.com. And you can call me at 203-631-4275. And those are the best ways to get in touch with me.
And also you use intuitive gifts as well to really look at the whole spectrum of what's happening within an individual, because, we're all different. We're all different. We're at different places in our lives. We don't all have the same dream. Wouldn't that make life simple? We don't all wear the same clothes. And so we are people that require unique possibilities. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Wow, everyone. Welcome back. Wow, you're listening right here on Transformation Talk Radio, Grow Your Soul Radio with Jane Matanga and me. I get to do this, the honor of doing this with Jane, because this show is about igniting your inner magic. Jane, today, you're talking about how to create a life balance. And before the break, we were talking about life balance and its relationship to dreams. But when we talk about imbalance, we're not always as aware of what that looks like. A friend of mine said to me, Pat, crazy's the new normal. And I thought, okay, yes, some of that's true, but I don't necessarily want it to be, right? But I'm not aware sometimes of what fits in that category and what fits in, let's just say, balance. Let's talk a little bit, right, about what happens in the imbalance space. What shows up for us?
Yeah, I think when we're paying attention to it, it's about staying in your power and surrounding yourself and your life with positivity. And I think when you don't do that and we forget who we are, as easy as that is to do with all the things that go on in all of our lives and our routine and our habits and getting to work and all the things that go with taking care of our families. But we start to have this creeping feeling of dissatisfaction. And we start to, and it gets to be it bigger and bigger, and it has more power over us. It can be, when you're driving to work, you have that feeling of that pit in your stomach, that sensation of an emptiness, or just knowing that you are, and that's your soul speaking, it's knowing that you are not awake, that you are leaving out a big part of who you are by sort of succumbing, if you will, to the habits and not really paying attention and nurturing all of the beautiful aspects of the light that we all possess and our gifts that we have. We're so busy and distracted with getting and having and toing and like throwing and then we give into the fear. So that's how the imbalances come up, when we give into the fear and we allow ourselves to spend more of our waking time thinking about that than working on all the positive aspects of our life, all the gifts we can share and how we can go about it. And then we allow ourselves to think about what we're not getting, what we're not being, and we let that define us. And then we start to feel, increasingly powerless and a little bit depressed or maybe a little irritated. And that's how it shows up. You get less enthusiasm for your life. You are less enthusiastic about work. You're less enthusiastic about being with your friends, and all of life really becomes that, because it's all speaking to you when deep down inside, that's how it's registering that you need to be true to you and get back to your loving touch and your gift and unwrap that gift. Healing is a gift, happiness is a gift. Your heart and soul, giving of your heart and soul, that's a gift. I mean, there's so many gifts. Everybody wants something big. It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to be Einstein. We all have even little things that we do for people and people in our lives every single day. So it's remembering to be able to unwrap the gift and let our gifts kind of spill out, and pay attention to the kindness and look at how that transforms your life. And we need that so much today. Our world is very tough. And if you pay attention to, even half the things, if you're watching all the news or reading all the reports, it's not positive. And it's so easy to get sucked into that and to believe that that's really the world out there. And then your hope starts to slip away. Mm-hmm. So it's really putting yourself back into your energy and tipping the balance back into your power by staying in all the things you love, giving your attention to, what you love doing every day, mm-hmm. and giving more attention to that than what it is that you don't like.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is sometimes we get this gnawing at us about that reminds us that, we have a sense of who we are to be or who we are to become. It's this gnawing sense of it, right? This sense that there's some direction that I'm pretty sure I should be going. Maybe that's why I've gone back to school. Maybe that's why I'm reading the books I'm reading. So we're getting these messages all along for us to really look at the direction that we're going in now and where we're being guided to go in. I mean, isn't that part of the imbalance when we are being called forward in direction A, but we really kind of want to hang out in direction B for whatever reason? Maybe it's safe. Maybe we just don't see it. Maybe we're not paying attention to it, right? Maybe we have a gazillion filters which mask it from something other than it is. But I don't know about you. When it really gets, push comes to shove, I feel it in my gut, right? I feel it in my gut. I might as well, be eating something that doesn't really appeal to me, but it's kind of like, oh man, that doesn't. And so I stop for a minute and I pay attention. How do we get back to that oak tree and an acorn, that dream, that idea of knowing this is the dream I have, and I need to get back on path with that?
I think the draining feeling and that angst and that feeling of purposelessness comes from how we're concentrating our attention and how we're concentrating our awareness. And it's because we're allowing our energy to stay there. And then we allow our habits, to define us, and mm-hmm. instead of, our gifts to define us. So that's the consequences of what happens and how we get all those feelings and how we feel limits. And we're really limitless, and we keep forgetting that we are limitless. So I think we need to, as you say, concentrate on that awareness and stop ourselves when we're mindful of that, and commit to thinking about what we want and what we'd rather do than how impossible we think it might be or how difficult that dream may seem. Because I think that's where we start to go. And that is when we sabotage ourselves, and our dream. So we need to start spending a lot more time about our dream and just really staying there and putting our energy there and putting our thoughts there and our attention and our work there. You attract everything that you desire. So if if you're desiring and you're saying to yourself and to the universe, oh, I don't think, this is going to work out. My life is just not looking the way I want it to, and it's not going to happen. Then you get more of that. You start energetically attracting all of that negativity, and you start to believe it when you start shifting and spending more time there. So the trick is not to. I mean, it sounds simple, but it's not, because you really have to pay attention to it.
Right.
And you have to be purposeful about really making the shift, as you so aptly, we're saying to the listeners about knowing that you're going there and you're falling into that trap, and that you are learning to stop kind of spending your mental energy and your currency on that, on more of what you don't want, and spending more time on what you do want, and transforming, and even little steps that you can take, and see how your attention, how the love for yourself and for what you do and for your gifts can heal, any kind of fear.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, I know for you, but definitely for me, when I think about imbalance and being able to recognize it, I've had to really look at the many faces that imbalance shows up. Sometimes it shows up as disappointment. Somehow, somewhere along the way, we thought disappointment was an okay thing to experience. Disappointment is something that I have found is totally in my control to shift and change. And it's a representation of imbalance. I think another thing that I look at is frustration. And, it's clear to me that there's so many opportunities for us to be frustrated, whether it's in the business world like you and I have been and still are, or whether it is frustration with a loved one, or frustration with a friend, or frustration with, oh my gosh, I left the steaks on the Barbie about 5 minutes too long, or frustration with any number of things. That frustration thing, contrary to what one of my friends believes, is the only way that gets to be a birthright is so it becomes a giant red flashing light that goes on to say, man, Pat, you got to hit the pause button and figure out what is out of whack. Not with you, Jane, but with me, right? What's out of whack with me? Now, I'm not saying that there's nothing that there isn't a little crazy going on in the news and the world right now. It's hard for us to comprehend. But what part within me wants to give that so much power that I can't stay true to myself?
It's always fear. I mean, we forget that we're love, and it's always fear. And so we give into that because we start to believe, that that's the world that we live in. And we start to lose our enthusiasm and our zest and our natural gifts, which are inspiration and just kindness and love, and noticing how even our courage inspires others. That's a big thing. People think it's a small thing. It's a big thing. When we're honest and we talk about our stories, because we all have them. We've all succumbed to periods of challenge, but then, we've all risen from it. And when we talk and we're honest about how we overcame these periods that were testing us, that's a powerful thing. You can really help to transform other people's lives by sharing that and talking about how we didn't give in to that, how we rose from that challenge, how we had the courage to step out and be inspired and listen to our dream and kind of give to people that we meet, shining our light and opening our hearts and creating more peace by doing that and helping lifting other people up.
Yeah.
And, it's really, when it comes down to it, it's all about that, because we all really are so much more similar than sometimes we allow ourselves to believe we really are. When you really listen, when you give the person, your friends, the gift of truly listening instead of talking, it's amazing what you learn, and what you can give to each other in life. And you notice how your presence and how meaningful that is, and how you can really gift people, like with your smile. I mean, our smiles are like champagne, and our laughter is love. And so, when we heal ourselves, we heal others. And our presence here is really a miracle. And so when you keep your mindset there, I mean, life can really be magical. It's just we have to keep our imagination into the limitless nature that it is, instead of going into fear and creating all these boundaries and allowing any, what we perceive as a failure. There isn't any. It's all a learning. It's all a learning experience. And where do we come to after we've gone through that? We're so much better than we were, if we really think about it honestly. And, it's all such an important tool, like being in balance and knowing, that you really are responsible for you and how you can create this life that you really want. It might not totally look exactly as you want it to, but it can totally be what you want it to be. But you can't give up, you cannot give up on your dream and who you are. And your presence and the miracle that is. I mean, we have to learn how to unwrap ourselves, because we're a gift. All of us are. So we have to learn how to unwrap ourselves and to shift and to live and be inspired and live an inspired life. And
well, one of the things that we'll talk about when we come back is how we can create a new alignment. See, one of the things I think that really gets us, stuck is the idea that we find ourselves in a predicament that we don't think we asked for. We think there was nothing we could do about it. We still think there's nothing we could do about it. We don't see any way out. And so the idea of a new alignment, once it's presented, literally shows that crack in the door where the light comes in, only to realize that the door is not locked. And with the right kind of wisdom, knowledge, and action, that door will pop open as if you were breathing. When we come back, we will talk about what does this mean to move beyond the limitations and explore why imagination has been called more superb, greater than most things that we've been given as human beings. Could we live and be on a planet right now if we didn't have it? That's a great thought. Let's take a short break, everyone. Jane Matanga will be right back. Everyone, welcome back. You're listening to Grow Your Soul Radio with Jane Matanga. And Jane, the topic you're talking about here is how to create life balance. And we've talked about what life balance is. We've talked about what imbalance feels like. And then, if we look at those two, the next question that we have to ask is that, look, how do we create that balance, that energy between our inspired life and our comfortable life? And, I think we all know that there's something inside of us, right, that wants to pull something forward. And I say that without judgment. And what I mean by that is, for my grandmother, what she loved doing was thinking about the Sunday family gathering and getting, what are we going to cook, and starting to plan it and going down to the butcher and getting the brajol and bringing that out. And really it was a full week. It was like a weekly event to plan for Sunday. And when that couldn't happen for her, right? When parts of that couldn't happen for her, you could see the pain, right? Because for her, that's where her imagination, creativity, to make a biscotti that was different than anything you had, right? All of that. And so it's fascinating that we want to rush to judgment about this and think everybody's got to have some, I want to be a gazillionaire, or maybe I could be Beyonce, or maybe I could make, and I think it's not without energy that we can seek that out. But for some of us, it's not always that, right? And so what do we do to reconcile that life we desire or inspire to live? And just think, maybe I'm not going to make the spaghetti sauce from scratch. Maybe I'm just going to grab a jar of something. By the way, my grandmother wouldn't do that. I would do that. Grandma, not so much. Right?
Right. You have to do what you love and be where you love. And people forget that because they just, we're really good here in America at working so hard and being very responsible. And that's all good. But we forget to have fun. We forget to align with fun and to do things we enjoy doing, and to spend time in all of that instead of, all the responsibility and all the things we need to do in our to-do list. Everything will unfold in perfect timing if we create the space and listen, and if we allow that to happen. But part of listening is doing things that we love, spending time with people that we love, being in positive situations, whether it's beautiful music that we love, whether it's artwork that we love, whether it's dancing, whether it's being with a friend or cooking together, as you were just talking about. That's where your joy comes in and comes back. And we spend far too little time doing that. And then, it's understandable how people lose their enthusiasm and how you get into a routine if you're not allowing for life's, pleasures and fun to happen. Where's the joy? It's just sort of like your life, I think, spins out of control because the emphasis is in the wrong place. It has to be the other way around. If you go to Europe, you see that. I mean, they work, but it's more they work to have fun and to be with their families instead of working to work and getting caught up in the to-doing and the toing and the throwing and the, and then you're not living. You're just existing. And so, then the universe sends you more of that. And then you're stuck. And then unless you learn to listen to that, your inner, and you were talking about listening to your gut. Yeah. That is one of the biggest tools we have because that speaks to us all the time. And if we listen to it, it's going to tell us the truth and what to pay more attention to and what to stay away from. And the imagination, as we were talking about, that's a gift. That doesn't have any limits or boundaries. It's limitless. And that's why we have it as a gift, so that we can use it to our advantage and live a better life and seek out those opportunities, even if it doesn't look exactly the way we want it to. And that's the other thing, is that I think we get so tied up in what it's going to look like. And we create this vision. And if it's not unfolding exactly like that, we get frustrated, we get listless, we lose enthusiasm, we get uncomfortable, because then we give in and we think it's not going to happen. it's going to happen. It just might look a little different, and it's okay. It's just being okay with that, and being able to use your imagination and allow it to flow, and believe, and be able to live your dreams and have your balance between that habitual aspect of your life, some aspect that we need to do, because we're working to take care of our families and contributing. But the other part that we forget about is contributing to our dream. That's where we need to spend some time. Many of us, yeah.
You have to, Jane. And you know what I love about this is that you and I probably are sitting here talking with each other and talking to our audience. Now, I don't know about you, but I venture to say you're kind of similar to me. When I graduated from 8 years in a PhD program, the only thing that I thought was on my mind to do was get that big, fat, paying consulting job, right? That giant salary, and do that job. And so nowhere was there this. But what you talked about was allowing imagination to step in. And when I did that, what I discovered is that I really wanted to help people. I wanted to help people pull themselves up, to know that if you're like me, you can have a mom that committed suicide. You can be homeless at 17, but you can also take action in your life. What I didn't know was it would turn out in this way. So dialing a wrong phone number that I didn't hang up on and pulling out a credit card, and I've pulled out that credit card a lot in 15 years to do this body of work. I had no idea that was going to lead me on a path of balance for myself. And that didn't come without frustration, without fear, without unknowing. But in that moment, and even today, there is such a sense of knowing about being in the right direction. And I got to tell you, that's enough sometimes. I don't know everything that we're supposed to do or how we're supposed to do it. And believe me, I have a great team of people here so that I don't need to know. But I go to sleep at night knowing, wow, what we did today is moving us towards that thing. That hasn't been the case all my life, though. That hasn't been the case. I've been frustrated. I've been depressed. I've made a lot of money in business. Not very fulfilling. Didn't really use my imagination all that much.
And look at where it brought you, though. So, it's concentrating on the awareness and just knowing that we all have that power, and that we all are just going to have these moments where we are challenged, and you just kind of have to learn to think out of the box and not to get so attached to what you think it's supposed to look like. That's where your energy gets zapped. That's where your balance gets zapped in your dream as well. And so, it's really listening to that, and sometimes just allowing your life to flow instead of getting attached to this image of what you think, what you need. It's just allowing it to be and unfold, and just being, instead of doing, being, and just enjoying your life and putting, having fun. Sometimes, you don't always have to do something. Sometimes it's just, you need to have fun and take that pause so that you can get, your creative spirit and your spirit lifted again, so that you can get your happiness and use your gifts and your laughter and your inspiration and just your presence, and just know that you can create that life. You're going to create the life. We aren't here without a reason. We're all here to give our gifts and to live our dream. And we're not going to leave this life before that happens. But I think when we get too attached to how that looks, how it's supposed to look, and we give up on it because it doesn't look exactly like we think it should.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah. But then, if you allow, look at what you can, it can be even better than what you ever thought could happen. So if you open up to that, things can be pretty amazing.
Yeah. You know what I love about this too is the universe is always providing us with clues. I want to talk a little bit about the work that you do to help people, number one, understand that whatever situation they're in, frustration, fear, anxiety, depression, just plain old stuck, whatever that is, there is a way out. And isn't that part of the body of the work that you do, is to help people meet them where they are? Think about, where does life mastery reside within this person, and how can Jane Matanga help them move forward? Because that is a huge part of your toolkit when you say that you work with people in a holistic way. You bring it all together because you understand for sure that stuckness is not the place that we're supposed to be.
Absolutely. And, it's just knowing that we all are connected and that we all have these periods of challenge, but it's believing in yourself too. And when we have courage, and we get through these periods, and you were giving your own situation as an example of that, that's so inspirational. And when we talk about that and we share about that and we choose to live in that rather than putting our thoughts on what we habitually do that isn't working, you have to put your thoughts on what is working and spend time on that. And just shift to that inspired life. And we can choose it. And you were talking about how you chose it despite all of the challenges and all of the, that's emotional. It's very heavy stuff. And we all have been there to some degree or another. But then where we get redirected as a result of that, if we stay the course and stay on our path and believe in ourselves. And that's not to say that we're not human beings. Yeah. Do we have days that really suck? Absolutely. we're human, it's going to happen, but you don't stay there, because then what does your life look like? You can either choose happiness and go that way, or you can live in the single biggest thing that people will say to you that they regret later in their life when they look back is that they didn't stick to living their dream, that they gave up before it even happened.
Wow.
And that's what we're talking about, giving up before you even give your chance to unwrap your gift, and that's what we have to do. We have to unwrap our gifts, because we have them.
Yeah. Part of this too is to really look at our thoughts and our mental equivalents of what we do and how much currency we spend on what I like to call the baggage thoughts, meaning that the more of them I have, the heavier my baggage gets. And before I know it, I've got one bag of baggage. And now with the airline companies, all those baggage rates went up. And so what a great metaphor, though, because we keep filling up the baggage. We keep filling up our luggage more and more and more and more. And the next thing we know, we're just lugging a ton of stuff around that just does not serve us anymore. So, how important, would you say this idea of getting clear about our thought currency is?
It's everything, because it creates your life or lack of your life.
Yeah.
And so if we don't get clear on that and get clear on our balance and what we want our inspired life to be and to live it and to do it and concentrate on that, then we, at the end of, our lives, we look back and we have more regret than we do. People don't regret doing something. They regret not doing it. That's the biggest regret, is not doing it, not stepping out of the comfort zone to live their dream, to use their imagination, to step out of the fear, because really everything's on the other side of that, everything. And if you don't do it, you're not going to have the life that you want.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm going back east. And so I said to Linda, because I have a little happy place that I go to. I said, hey, I looked at all of the table tennis clubs in New Jersey. That's where I played table tennis for when I was younger. So I'm already thinking about that happy place, right? Of how to create balance, going back to a place I grew up with that is not necessarily my comfort zone today, right?
Right.
I'm not that person that used to live on the East Coast and the pace of it. So I have to make sure that I build something in that's going to give my brain a rest. That's also part of what you help folks with, Jane, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's really, you know, just believing in yourself and giving you the tools to learn how to think a little differently and how to approach your life differently and how to create your life and live an inspired life and use your gifts. And it just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of work.
Yeah.
And you can have a much happier life if you do a little bit of work, but you have to do the work,
I love
you have
it.
to be honest with yourself and recognize it.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm a work in progress. I don't want to let anybody think here for a minute that I got this thing figured out. No. I like being a work in progress because I get to live in the dream state and the imagination state. Jane, thank you for a great show today. Again, how can people work with you? Please give out your website.
Please contact me at info@enlightened-path.com, or you could call me at 203-631-4275. And I'm looking forward to talking to all of you on the next show. And Dr. Pat, thank you so much. This was really a great show.
Thank you. And by the way, our dream doesn't stop. Our theme moving into the end of this year and next year is called accelerated expansiveness. And it is something that the entire team is feeling and moving on. And we will figure it out along the way, especially thanks to the messaging that you're bringing, Jane. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Just remember, don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. That's the big takeaway. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. Thank you, Jane. Thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on. Thank you, Benny. Thank you, Rob. Another hour coming up here on Transformation Talk Radio.
Okay.
You've been listening to Grow Your Soul Radio with Jane Matanga on TransformationTalkRadio.com. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us next week as Jane helps you unlock and reclaim the magic in your life. For more information on Jane Matanga or to listen to past shows, visit her website at enlightened-path.com or growyoursoulradio.com. And don't forget to ask Jane about her amazing intuitive life mastery session. See you next time.